While the shop owner was counting money, three armed robbers suddenly burst in, waving their guns and acting like predators on the hunt. But their confidence quickly crumbled. In a shocking turn of events, the hunters became the hunted, forced to crawl on all fours as their failed heist ended in humiliation. The incident unfolded inside a small restaurant on a bustling street, where an off-duty police officer happened to be among the diners. Suddenly, a robber stormed in, attempting to snatch valuables from customers. Acting with speed and precision, the officer relied on his training, and with the swift support of nearby citizens, managed to subdue and apprehend the two robbers before they could escape. Two individuals arrived on separate motorcycles, and one began to hotwire a parked red motorcycle using an object from his pocket. The theft was interrupted when the owner rushed out and forcefully confronted the suspect, preventing the vehicle from being stolen. A young man was riding his motorcycle toward an intersection when two armed robbers suddenly closed in from behind a wall on another bike. One of them pointed a gun at him and shouted loudly. Instead of surrendering, the rider jumped off his bike and took cover behind a utility pole. In that split second, he launched a fierce counterattack, instantly shifting the course of the confrontation and catching the robbers completely off guard. A parked car became the target of ruthless robbers who sped up, pulled alongside, and had one suspect jump out to threaten the driver. However, the owner reacted immediately in self-defense, causing the criminals to panic and flee the scene. A woman was walking down a quiet street when two robbers on a motorbike sped toward her. One jumped off and pointed a gun at her, but what happened next looked straight out of an action movie. With incredible reflexes, she leaned back, drew her gun with her right hand, and fired in a flash. Her swift and precise move left the two would-be robbers terrified, forcing them to flee before they even realized what had happened. Two men targeted a white car that was parked, planning to steal it. What they didn't know was that the person inside was an off-duty police officer. Acting quickly, he caught the would-be thieves red-handed, preventing the theft before they could escape. Three women were unloading items from a car when a group of robbers suddenly rushed toward them. Startled and terrified, the women panicked and ran to safety. Two of the attackers then charged at the man in the driver's seat, attempting to rob him. But he was ready. With a swift and decisive move, he drew his gun to defend himself. Caught off guard, the robbers panicked and fled. A young woman was walking alone when a thief on a motorbike sped past, snatching her phone and handbag. Fearing for her safety, she ran. But just as the thief thought he had escaped, two brave men rushed out from a nearby house. In a fearless move, they confronted him and taught him a harsh lesson: that women deserve respect. A terrifying home invasion took place at the Interlace Apartments in Dallas. A man disguised as a maintenance worker initially tried to enter under the pretense of checking air filters, but resident Ethan Rodriguez refused. Hours later, the suspect returned, this time with an armed accomplice. They attempted to break down the door, but Rodriguez fired in self-defense, forcing one suspect to flee. Late at night, a woman was walking alone when a man suddenly jumped out of a car, attempting to rob her. But instead of freezing in fear, she acted with incredible speed and precision. Sensing the danger, she instantly drew her gun and took a defensive stance, turning the tables on her would-be attacker. Her quick reflexes and courage in that tense moment likely saved her life. A robbery attempt inside a dental clinic took an unexpected turn when two thieves stormed in, demanding money from the staff. What they didn't know was that an off-duty police officer happened to be in the clinic at that very moment. Acting with lightning speed, the officer drew his weapon and confronted the robbers, forcing them into a panicked retreat. A thief tried to rip a handbag from a woman's grasp when, in a flash, a man nearby sprang into action. Launching himself forward, he delivered a crushing flying kick that knocked the robber off balance. In an instant, the woman, and her child, were safe. A daring car robbery unfolded on the street when two robbers on a motorbike used a gun to threaten the driver of a moving car. As the driver tried to steer away to escape, the suspects blocked the vehicle's path, resulting in a collision. The impact damaged the robber's motorbike, ultimately forcing them to abandon it and flee on foot. Two armed thugs stormed into a shop, waving their guns in a brazen attempt to snatch cash. But the owner and his employee refused to be victims. With remarkable courage, they fought back, overpowering and capturing one of the assailants. The second robber, still armed, tried to flee. A man was standing on the sidewalk when two robbers suddenly jumped out of a black car, rushing toward him to commit a robbery. In an unbelievable turn of events, a speeding car appeared out of nowhere and intervened just in time, rescuing the man from imminent danger. A surprising incident took place when a man was cornered against a wall by five robbers on motorbikes. Instead of complying, he cleverly pretended to fall, before suddenly pulling out a gun. Startled, the robbers panicked and fled. It began as an ordinary day of shopping. until a man in a white shirt stormed in and declared a robbery. Armed with a gun, he showed no hesitation, yanking a gold chain from the neck of a customer in a black t-shirt before grabbing anything of value within reach. Panic erupted as terrified shoppers scattered in every direction. But just when the robber believed he had total control, a brave man nearby sprang into action. Young women alone on deserted streets are often easy targets for robbers. In this video, a terrified girl was threatened at gunpoint by a thief demanding her phone. But help came unexpectedly. A pickup truck driver nearby acted quickly and decisively, rushing in to save her. Two thugs disguised themselves as rescue workers, tricking their way toward a family in hopes of an easy robbery. But their plan collapsed in seconds. The wife, fearless and unyielding, erupted into action, striking back with a storm of blows to shield her husband and child. Overwhelmed and humiliated, the criminals had no choice but to run for their lives. Security camera footage captured the terrifying moment a young woman was attacked by two thieves just after stepping out of her car. Despite the sudden assault, she remained remarkably composed and fought back with courage and determination, managing to fend them off on her own. Moments later, police arrived just in time to rescue her. It began like any normal day at a small clothing shop. Quiet, routine, nothing out of the ordinary. Three men walked in, pretending to browse through the racks like regular customers. But in a split second, everything changed. One of them pulled out a gun, aiming it directly at the shop owner and demanding cash. Instead of panicking, the owner stayed calm, eyes steady, heart unwavering. His composure and quiet confidence threw the robbers off balance. Realizing they had picked the wrong target, the men soon backed away in fear and fled. A terrifying home invasion unfolded at the house of Caspian and Isabel Sheen, when a masked robber armed with a rifle struck, just as the couple returned from a date. What began as an ordinary day quickly turned violent, but thanks to Caspian's quick reflexes and courage, he managed to wrestle the weapon away and subdue the intruder. An off-duty police officer, relaxing with a friend, suddenly found himself face to face with two armed men determined to steal his motorcycle. But instead of panicking, the officer stayed calm, pulling back just long enough to size up the danger before striking back with precision. In seconds, his bold counterattack forced one criminal into retreat while the other dropped everything and fled. A tense robbery took place in Brazil, where a man, along with his wife and daughter, was confronted by armed criminals. At first, his decision to comply with their demands was understandable, as it prioritized his family's safety. However, his sudden counterattack against the robbers as they turned to leave raises legal concerns. The key question is whether the law should take into account the perception of an ongoing danger, even if the immediate threat appears to have passed. A gym's security camera captured shocking footage as a fitness trainer, dressed in a blue t-shirt, got into his car, only to be approached by a man on a motorbike who appeared to threaten him in an attempted robbery. Before the situation could escalate, another man nearby rushed in and swiftly overpowered the attacker. He walked in like any ordinary customer, calm, relaxed, just browsing. But in an instant, the man drew a gun and demanded money. Fearing for his life, the shop owner handed over cash while the intruder tore through the shelves, searching for more valuables. What the robber didn't realize was that the owner was waiting for his chance. When the moment came, he acted, firing in self-defense. Stunned and off guard, the robber bolted into the street, only to be captured shortly after as police rushed to the scene. Two thugs spotted an unattended motorbike and rushed in, attempting to break the lock and steal it. At that moment, an off-duty police officer happened to drive by and noticed the suspicious activity. Without hesitation, he pulled over to intervene. A group of friends were laughing and chatting when suddenly, two robbers burst in. Chaos exploded instantly. Three of the men scrambled for safety, but one refused to run. Determined to turn the tables, he stood his ground, locking eyes on the intruders. In that moment, he was ready to fight back. The guy saw a woman sitting alone and approached her, aiming for her phone. However, she seemed alert and carefully protected her phone, leaving him no chance to grab it. He immediately switched to trying to snatch her handbag and ran off, but she reacted in time. As he fell, she gave him a few lessons he wouldn't forget. A failed robbery caught on camera highlights the quick thinking of homeowner Jason Williams. After being alerted to a break-in by his alarm system, Williams rushed inside, grabbing a frying pan as an improvised weapon. He confronted the burglar and chased the suspect out of his house and around the yard until Chicago police arrived to apprehend the intruder. An armed robbery erupted at a lavish residence when two masked men ambushed the arriving driver of a luxury car. Inside, the homeowner and his friend were forced to the floor at gunpoint as the intruders tried to assert control. But the tables quickly turned. A young mother in the bedroom, hearing the gunfire, grabbed her own handgun and fired back. Her husband and his friend then seized the weapon and charged after the robbers, who fled in shock and panic. A swift and decisive act of self-defense by a store owner turned the tables in spectacular fashion, stopping an armed robbery dead in its tracks. In a moment worthy of an action movie, the owner didn't flinch. With precision and courage, they faced down the armed attacker, thwarting the crime before it could spiral out of control.
What you guys need? Right up.
Security cameras captured the tense moment a man disguised as a delivery worker tried to rob someone on a quiet street. But his target wasn't ordinary. It was an off-duty police officer. When the criminal bent down to grab an item the officer had deliberately dropped, the trap was sprung. Security camera footage captured the terrifying moment a family was confronted by two armed robbers as they stopped their car in front of their home. The criminals attempted to steal their belongings, but the man of the family was prepared. Taking cover behind a concrete pillar, he used his firearm to protect his loved ones. The sound of gunfire startled the attackers, forcing them to flee the scene immediately. Two robbers walked in pretending to be customers, but their act didn't last long. In an instant, one pulled out a gun and aimed it at the woman behind the counter, shouting for her to hand over the cash. What they didn't know was that her husband was watching, and he was ready. Without a moment's hesitation, he drew his weapon and opened fire to protect her. Panic erupted. One robber bolted for the exit, while the other dove for cover behind a row of chairs. But there was no way out. Within seconds, both were neutralized. A bold and dangerous robbery erupted when two armed suspects stormed into a convenience store, one of them firing wildly without warning. Caught in the chaos, the store owner and an employee dove for cover, narrowly escaping the barrage. But they weren't about to surrender. Acting fast, they returned fire in self-defense and triggered the alarm. What started as an ordinary day at the store exploded into chaos when two armed robbers stormed in, threatening the woman behind the counter and demanding money. But before they could make another move, her husband sprang into action, swift, fearless, and ready to protect. In seconds, he opened fire, forcing the attackers to flee. Two armed robbers stormed in, attempting to hijack a man's car. But their plan fell apart in an instant when an unexpected hero appeared at just the right moment. With perfect timing and fearless precision, the rescuer intervened, forcing the stunned robbers to abandon their crime and flee. What began as a terrifying carjacking turned into a scene straight out of an action movie. This homeowner was far too lenient. Instead of delivering a decisive blow, he let the thief off easy. A single golden strike would have brought the perfect finish to the encounter.
Hi! You trying to steal from me? No. Get out of here!
A white car was suddenly surrounded by a gang of ruthless robbers, their guns raised as they shouted and demanded the driver surrender his vehicle. The tension was overwhelming, as if the criminals already had full control. But the robbers hadn't counted on the driver's nerves of steel. With no sign of panic, he suddenly slammed the gear into reverse, hurtling backward at breakneck speed. The car rammed into the robbers' vehicle, leaving them stunned and disoriented. Seizing the moment of chaos, the driver then accelerated forward and made a daring escape, turning what seemed like certain defeat into a stunning act of survival. A woman had just arrived home and hadn't even stepped out of her car when a group of robbers suddenly pulled up. One of them, armed with a gun, jumped out and charged directly at her. But she reacted in an instant, slamming herself back into the car, shifting into reverse, and speeding away at full throttle. Her quick thinking and decisive action were nothing short of incredible. Honestly, many men might not have reacted that fast. She certainly deserves an extra 100 points on her driver's license for her bravery and lightning-fast reflexes. Just as a Porsche pulled up at the house gate, a group of robbers suddenly rushed in, likely after tailing the car for some time. One suspect jumped off and pointed a gun at the owner, attempting to steal the vehicle. However, the owner stayed remarkably calm, swiftly reversing the car to break free from the robbers. Reports suggest the Porsche's windows are bulletproof, adding an extra layer of protection. Kudos to the driver for their impressive composure and skill in such a tense situation. A couple was chatting with their friend when two men sped toward them on a motorbike, pointing a gun and demanding their car. But the couple reacted faster than lightning, slamming the car doors shut and speeding away, leaving the stunned robbers in disbelief. What began as an ordinary day in a quiet small town quickly escalated into a dramatic confrontation. An elderly couple had just returned home and were backing their car into the garage when two men, one dressed in black, approached, clearly intending to steal their vehicle. But what the criminals didn't anticipate was that the older man was far from helpless. In a stunning twist, the elderly man fought back fiercely, catching the thieves completely off guard. The man in black fled instantly, while his panicked partner lost control. Realizing the situation was hopeless, the terrified thief abandoned the vehicle and ran for his life. A woman was refueling her car when out of nowhere, a thief suddenly jumped into her vehicle, attempting to drive away. At that moment, a nearby man witnessed the entire scene, and without hesitation, bravely intervened to stop the thief. His courageous act prevented the crime and protected the woman from losing her car. A true real-life hero. A quiet morning turned chaotic when a middle-aged couple arrived home, only to be ambushed at their gate by two men speeding in on a motorbike. Without warning, the passenger leapt off, pulled out a gun, and demanded cash and the couple's motorbike. But instead of freezing in fear, the woman did something no one expected. She fought back. With fierce determination, she slapped the armed thug across the face several times, stunning both robbers and forcing them to retreat in panic. In a bizarre twist, before fleeing, the cowards had the audacity to turn back and mock her one last time. As a woman was unlocking her door to enter her house, two armed robbers suddenly rushed up, pointing their guns at her in an attempt to steal her motorbike. Sensing the danger, she quickly drew her own weapon and fired. The unexpected gunfire threw the robbers into a panic, forcing them to flee in fear. This bold thief must have thought he was about to pull off the perfect crime. He snuck in, quietly pushed the motorbike out of the gate, and imagined that once the engine roared, he'd vanish in an instant. But life isn't a dream. At the crucial moment, the bike got jammed in the gate. He wrestled, twisted, and struggled, desperately trying to break free. But nothing worked. While he was still locked in battle with his iron opponent, the homeowner stormed out like a furious storm, shovel in hand, ready to kick him straight in the backside. And just like that, the thief bolted, sprinting for his life, narrowly escaping becoming the neighborhood's punching bag. Two thieves lounged casually by a motorbike, pretending to be harmless passers-by. But it was all part of their setup, a trap for their fellow criminals. And sure enough, two new suspects slipped in, circling their chosen targets. In the blink of an eye, what looked like an ordinary street corner turned into a crime hotspot, with four thieves packed into just a single square meter. Chaos erupted at a busy hamburger restaurant in the middle of the night when two armed robbers stormed in, ready to seize the cash and terrorize everyone inside. But luck and courage were on the customer's side that night. Among the diners was an off-duty military police officer who didn't hesitate for a second to take action. When one of the suspects pointed his gun, the officer swiftly drew his weapon and opened fire, rescuing everyone in the restaurant and forcing the panicked robbers to flee. Thanks to his quick thinking and bravery, no one was injured, and the incident ended without any tragic consequences. A man was walking with his beloved dog when two robbers suddenly appeared, attempting to steal from him. Without hesitation, the dog sprang into action, bravely confronting the thieves to protect his owner. This courageous act is a powerful reminder of the unconditional love and loyalty dogs show to humans. A true hero, this brave dog deserves recognition and celebration for his fearless devotion. A security camera captured a shocking scene. A stranger armed with a knife breaking into a home and attacking a family. Sensing the danger, the family's beloved dog sprang into action, fearlessly leaping through a window and biting the intruder, leaving viewers in awe. This courageous act demonstrated the dog's incredible loyalty and unconditional love for its family. In the quiet of the afternoon, chaos erupted when a gang of armed robbers stormed into a home, confident in their victory. But what they never anticipated was the fury of a fearless guardian. With no hesitation, a loyal dog leapt into action, driving the intruders back. With incredible courage, a dog didn't hesitate for even a second. All alone, he faced an entire gang of thieves, protecting not only his owner's belongings, but also their safety. This four-legged superhero proves that true heroes come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes they even come with fur. Three thugs armed with a meat cleaver stormed into a store, threatening staff and demanding cash and goods. The shopkeeper initially pretended to comply, but then suddenly dashed away, smashed a wine bottle to create a distraction, and escaped outside. Acting fast, he managed to lock the robbers inside the shop. Bystanders quickly joined in, holding the door shut from outside. Trapped and powerless, the would-be robbers had no choice but to surrender in defeat. The thief and the homeowner stared at each other. Neither of them said a word. In Everett, Washington, a smoke shop manager successfully foiled an armed robbery attempt with an unusual weapon, bear spray. The store had already endured a violent robbery in which employees were held at gunpoint. Determined to prevent a repeat, owner Ryan Watkins equipped the shop with bear spray and other defensive tools strategically placed throughout the premises. That preparation paid off. When the robbers struck again, the manager acted swiftly, unleashing the spray and stopping the crime in its tracks. A homeowner recently caught burglars breaking into his house in real time through a live surveillance feed. This rare circumstance allowed him to alert police immediately, resulting in the suspect's swift arrest. The case highlights the growing impact of modern home security systems, serving not only as a deterrent, but also as powerful tools for solving crimes. Investigators say the video and audio recordings will likely play a crucial role in securing a successful prosecution. Sometimes people do things that seem foolish to others, actions that appear clumsy, reckless, or unnecessary. Yet behind those silly choices often lies a burning passion, a drive so strong that it cannot be ignored. A couple had just arrived home when they were suddenly ambushed by a group of robbers. The criminals attempted to attack them right in front of their house. Fortunately, the couple reacted quickly, ran to safety, and managed to escape unharmed. A theft was detected remotely through a home security camera. The caller, who was away from home, spotted the suspect stealing a box and a parcel. The caller immediately relayed a detailed description of the thief's clothing: a camouflage jacket, white hoodie, and gray sweatpants. The dispatcher quickly passed this information to headquarters. Thanks to the police's rapid response and timely coordination, what could have been a clean escape turned into a swift and decisive arrest. This woman spotted a package left at someone's doorstep and couldn't resist her greed. She rushed over, snatched it, and ran back to her car. But karma struck instantly. She was lightly hit by a car. This time it was just a minor accident. But if she keeps stealing, who knows where her life will end up. A man walked into a store, pretending to be an ordinary customer. But within seconds, he pulled out a gleaming knife and pointed it at the shopkeeper, demanding money in a harsh, threatening voice. However, the tables quickly turned. The moment the robber dropped his guard, the store owner drew a knife of his own, ready to defend himself and his shop. Two brazen robbers stormed into a store, knives flashing as they threatened the shopkeeper. But instead of cowering, the owner struck back with fearless precision. A masked robber stormed into a store, waving a gun and barking furious demands for cash. His reckless swings and shouts sent shockwaves of fear through the room. But his intimidation didn't last long. In a split second, the shop owner fired in self-defense. Stunned and terrified, the robber bolted from the scene. Four armed men stormed into a store, waving guns and demanding cash. The owner ducked behind the counter as chaos erupted. One robber even leapt onto the cashier's counter to search for money. Completely unaware the owner was ready to fight back. In a split-second move, the shopkeeper fired in self-defense. Startled and terrified, the robbers bolted from the store, their bold plan collapsing in seconds. The store clerk acted wisely. Instead of rushing into danger, he allowed the thief to feel overconfident, casually taking the goods. Then, in one sudden move, he struck, catching the crook completely off guard. He was known as a petty theft expert, slipping away countless times before. But today, his luck finally ran out. What began as an ordinary day at the bakery turned upside down when a man in a red shirt strolled in, pretending to browse, then suddenly lunged for the cash register. But he hadn't counted on teamwork. Staff and customers alike sprang into action.
Somebody carry the knife. We got him. Carry the knife. Fred Roberts. If I hold up him, he's very sensitive.
In the middle of a crowded street, two thieves launched a daring attempt in broad daylight. One crouched on the sidewalk, using a power cutter to grind through the heavy chains securing a parked motorcycle. The other circled nearby on another bike, acting as lookout and getaway driver. For nearly a full minute, the sparks flew, yet the chain refused to break. All of this happened in the open, with pedestrians and traffic passing by, as if the criminals were daring the city to watch. Their reckless persistence revealed just how bold and desperate they were willing to be. A bizarre and unforgettable arrest unfolded in Hong Kong when a thief unknowingly hopped onto the wrong motorbike taxi. What he didn't realize was that the ride would take him straight to the police station. By the time the stunned criminal figured it out, it was already too late. His getaway had become a one-way trip to jail. A daring robbery took an unexpected twist when two armed thieves stormed into a fashion store, trying to intimidate the owner. But the cool-headed shopkeeper wasn't about to play their game. With the calm of a chess grandmaster and the sly wit of a movie villain, he outsmarted the robbers, tricking them into staying inside before rolling down the metal shutter from the outside. Moments later, he returned with the police. Three thieves broke into the home of a young woman, thinking it would be an easy target. But they were dead wrong. The lady of the house turned out to be far more dangerous than they ever imagined. It was an ordinary day that turned into every parent's worst nightmare. Intruders targeted a quiet home, attempting to force their way inside. But what they didn't expect was the unshakable courage of the woman who lived there. This incredible mother refused to surrender. Summoning every ounce of strength, she stood her ground and fought with everything she had. Her only thought, protecting her little daughter at all costs. Blow after blow, she battled the intruders with fierce determination, proving that nothing is stronger than a mother's instinct to defend her child. In the end, her bravery drove the attackers back, sending them fleeing in shock and humiliation. Though shaken, the family was safe, thanks to the extraordinary courage of a woman who transformed fear into unstoppable strength. What began as a quiet drive home turned into a terrifying ambush, but ended in pure heroism. As the woman pulled into her driveway, a car full of armed robbers closed in fast. Before she could even step out, they jumped out, pointing their guns and shouting demands. But instead of freezing, she acted with lightning-fast instincts. Throwing her car into reverse, she sped away with expert control, dodging danger and outsmarting the attackers in a breathtaking display of courage. Her quick thinking and fearless driving didn't just save her car, it saved her life.